Welcome, everyone, to another exciting adventure on the energy that surrounds us. I'm your host, Michael, and tonight we have a very special guest coming on. And in full disclosure, we've been talking backstage, as kind of having some fun. So I think you guys are in for an awesome show tonight. And I could sit here and, talk about all our accolades and everything, but I don't really want to bore you with that, so I am going to, in turn, hand it over to my awesome, amazing guest to introduce herself and to share a little bit about herself. So I'm going to turn it over to the one, the only, improv amazing Reverend Amy Major.
I know, right? With what we were discussing before. So I don't do acting anymore, but as we were talking about improv before. But no, thank you for having me on the show. This is a lot of fun. I always tell everyone you have to stop me from talking for hours about this stuff. So anything you want to talk about, it's open game. It's going to be a lot of fun. But I am Reverend Amy Major, and I am a metaphysical minister. So a lot of people are like, what's that? It's a metaphysics, so the study of information, consciousness beyond our reality. So, and I am also a spiritualist as well, been for about 23 years now. I am more internationally known as a rescue medium. I've written many books, which he had on the advertisement. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been a big journey as far as learning about my abilities. Always started, as many has heard me say before, very hesitant to do this work. I was the most reluctant person you could ever meet getting into doing rescue mediumship. Didn't want anything to do with it. But my guides had other plans for me. So I've been doing rescue mediumship since 2001. And I plan on doing it for the rest of my life. And my biggest thing now is educating the public about rescue mediumship, about earthbound spirits. And every year I learn something new. And so when I do get a chance to be on these shows and people ask a lot of questions, what I would have answered 15 years ago might be a little different now because, as I've been working in this field, we're constantly learning something new. The consciousness is expanding and we are grabbing and grasping more information daily as the spirit world gives us more information. So I think people are going to be learning about this field of mediumship probably for the next 50 years, at least, if not longer. So thank you for having me on the show. I'm going to enjoy this.
Yes, and I have to say, it's interesting you point out, how the answers evolve over time because first question I had, you kind of hinted around, and I was like, man, she probably gets asked this question so many times, but I gotta ask because I'm not even fully clear of what it is, and that is rescue mediumship. What
Right.
or what exactly is the rescue part, and what is entailed?
Well, I think mediums have been doing this work for hundreds of years, probably more and longer than physical. Than physical mediumship, psychic mediumship. I think rescue mediumship, before it was even understood to be what it was. I think mediums have been doing it longer. Every time you see a movie about a haunted location, a medium comes in to help with the restless spirit in the home to help them move on. That's essentially rescue mediumship. We as mediums focus mainly on spirits that are the in-between, or we call earthbound spirit. And with that, we help to educate them, counsel them, work with any unresolved issues that they have. So we're an advocate for them. We work with their spirit guides, we work with our spirit guides, and we help facilitate a healing experience for these spirits so they can release their attachment to the physical world. And many people say crossover. Rescue mediums, we like to say transition into the light, because it is a transitionary state. It's not necessarily crossing a line or anything like that. There are actually many levels in between. So a lot of people understand that mediums do this, but they didn't know there was an actual name associated with this type of work. And I think as mediumship has been evolving over the last 30, 40 years, we've been branching off into many different specialties of mediumship where we all focus intently on specific tasks and intentions of mediumship. So you'll see a lot of evidential mediums and physical mediums and channeling mediums. We are rescue mediums because we continue to help and rescue spirits that are stuck or in between so they can continue on.
So, an interesting question I have for you around that is when you talk about like a stuck spirit, I have the viewpoint and understanding of spirits are energies, so really they can go anywhere. So, when you refer to them as stuck, what does that mean to you? Because and that just it's something I hear a lot, but it's like I feel like it doesn't make sense because their energy. How are they stuck?
That's because you're viewing it from a third dimensional viewpoint. Because when we're stuck here, we feel physically stuck, unable to move forward or adjust, where we are. Being stuck in the spiritual realm is very different. It's more of a mental and emotional feeling of being stuck in a time, in a place, in an emotion. They feel incapable of moving on away from their burdens. So they feel stuck. They're not actually physically stuck anywhere. So
Okay.
a lot of these spirits are, they don't even know that they're dead. Some do know that they're dead. A lot of them are just confused, and I didn't know that a lot of these spirits couldn't actually find their way to the light. The majority of the spirits that I actually worked with and had a lot of experiences with in the very beginning, before I even knew I was a rescue medium, they would all walk up to me and spiritually be around me and say, "Where do I go? I know I'm dead. I know I'm not where I'm supposed to be, but I don't know where I'm supposed to go." They felt stuck in some way because they were incapable of going where they felt they needed to go. So
That makes sense. And one of the interesting things is because as a paranormal investigator, I know from experience spirits aren't always as they appear. Like sometimes they'll mimic something to get your attention. So, as a rescue medium, have you encountered the so called like mimics where something is appearing as something else? And how do you handle that?
all the time, because there are many spirits for various reasons don't want to show their true form. Some of them are hesitant to do it because they don't want you to understand why they're really earthbound. They don't want to transition to the light. So they'll give you a story saying something else. Then you'll have a negative spirit that will say, "Oh no, I'm a little girl and I'm here and I need a lot of help," but really it's a demonic entity. I teach my students in rescue mediumship how to step through the energetic layers of their etheric body to find out intention. There are many layers that where you can actually be able to step through the illusion if you just learn how to read the energy correctly.
That's really cool. And I like how you say the illusion because that's really what it is. And it's easy for people to, sit there and buy into the sob story and being like, oh, we got to help this person. We got to help the. When chances are you're helping something else because you're so into the story, you're not paying attention to all the flags that are going off, so to speak.
That's why you need discernment in doing this work. You really have a 50-50. 50% of the spirits really do need your help and they are lost. I do actually connect with a lot of children that are in transition because they're afraid of going into the light. And then you have a lot of abusers, lower frequency entities that do come in, and they're trying to manipulate you so you can gain their trust, so they can attach onto you, become a spirit attachment. So you have to learn a lot of discernment. And through my years of training, which was not fun, by the way, at all, I had over 100 attachments because my guides believed that experience was the best teacher. So it was interesting training. And through that training and through that experience, I learned a lot of discernment. And that's what I teach my students now.
That's really cool and amazing, so to speak, in the terms of what a gift to be able to help others with. But yeah, I could totally agree with your face right now going, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. And so sorry you had to go through that, but it is, yeah, it is quite a achievement too. I mean, to sit there and say, wow, I survived this. And by saying surviving, I'm not meaning like they were attacking you or anything. It's just you survived in figuring out that something was there that shouldn't be there, either draining or influencing or just along for the ride, because not everything is bad and not everything is good.
Right, right. Over time, you realize the subtle hints, the whispers, the feelings that you have from the get-go are usually right. It's when you start doubting yourself or listening to other people or listening to the voice that's trying to come through to you. But it's that initial gut feeling that you have when something's happening to you. And I'm not talking fear, because a lot of people experience fear when they're dealing with earthbound spirits. It's the feeling of threat. And it's a very distinct feeling. Anyone who's ever experienced any trauma or abuse in their life knows what a threatening feeling is compared to fear. And when you actually feel that threat, and it could be very subtle, because it's very distinct of someone coming in, even when they're coming in with kindness. You can feel the undertone of that kindness, and you can tell there's a different sinister intention behind it. But again, it takes discernment, and sometimes you gotta be knocked down a few times for you to learn that. But it doesn't happen as often as you think, unless you're already carrying a dense vibration and you're already attracting those negative spirits to you, or you walk into a location such as an asylum and it has a lot of dense energy there. You're going to expect that there's going to be negative spirits there. So already have that discernment, already put your shield up, already have, that level of awareness with you when you're stepping into that scenario. Otherwise, try to be a little bit more open-minded and don't think everything's negative, because most of the time it's not.
And with that knowledge comes an interesting question that I get asked a lot, and I have a hard time answering because I know what works for me may not work for others, and it's not something I was taught, it's just something I knew. And I think with your, stating you've had 100 attachments, you're pretty knowledgeable on how to remove said attachments. And so what are the methods that you find really help people who may or may not realize they have attachments?
Well, the first thing you have to do is understand the type of attachment they have. That's vital, because you have to know what it is and why it is before you find out the remedy of extraction. And so we have two forms. We have intelligent and manifested. The majority of attachments are actually manifested, which is self-created through either emotional or thought projections from the subconscious. Those are the majority of attachments that people actually create. They always talk, you create your own demons. You are creating your own thought and emotional projections from trauma that's been built up in the subconscious that's trying to get your attention to find resolution. So that's the first one. It's the hardest form of attachments to clear, because it takes an awful lot of work and counseling and emotional help, and that you're also clearing layers of trauma. So you can look at weeks to months, if not longer, to clear those attachments. The intelligent attachments are the ones that are actually the easiest. And those are more entity, earthbound spirit, ET, multidimensional, interdimensional, reptilian attachments that people have. More people are actually getting them. They used to be very rare. But more people are getting them these days because people are moving into fourth dimensional density, which is fourth dimensional astral plane. So people they're seeing these entities in the astral plane, and these entities are seeing you. What you see sees you in reflection. So now that you're moving, you're going into astral travel, you're going to spaces where there's portals of fourth dimensional energy, you're now attracting more of these fourth dimensional entities. Not all are bad, as I said before, but if you do have a fourth dimensional entity that has jumped inside you, the first and always the best thing I always go to is free will. You decide whether they stay or go. That's it. And it doesn't take a lot. Once you invoke free will, saying, I do not want you here, I'd always say, I do not invite, I do not allow, and I will not, I insist on you leaving me now. Through my divine light, you are required to go. But you have to really believe in it. You can't just say it and not believe it, because these entities don't actually listen to your words. They listen to your intention and your belief in yourself, your confidence. You truly have to believe that they're not allowed to be there. It's a game for most because they're trying to break down your free will, because that's the only way they can get through to you, because their main initiative is to provoke fear so they can feed off your fear. Once you don't give them the fear, you provoke and you intently say, this is my free will, you're not allowed to stay. And if they don't go, then you get to call in what I call spirit police from the other side. You call them in, say, oh, they're going against my free will, and easily they are taken from the other side, put in lockdown. So earthbound entities, demonic ETs, people, believe it or not, it's easier than you think as long as you understand your divine light.
That's true. And what I find interesting too is people seem to think as my light goes up, things have harder time connecting to me. And I feel like sometimes it's actually the reverse. The more light you're putting out and the brighter your light is, the more of a beacon you are, so you're drawing more things to you.
Oh, I got something to say about that.
Go ahead.
So, throughout the years, there's so many teachers that teach you put a beautiful white light of energy around you and you'll be fine. And I found out, over time with all of those attachments, that wasn't working. And I couldn't understand why it wasn't working. And then my guides would finally come down and they're like, what do you think these earthbound spirits are looking for? They're looking for the white light. And you just put a big banner of white light all around you saying, come get me. And so you're raising your frequency, you're moving into fourth dimension, and then like a bug to a flame, you set off this white light of energy, and all the earthbound spirits from miles around are now going to be swarming you because they think you're the light that's going to lead them home. So white light is not the best strategy for rescue mediums or anyone in the paranormal. I would say if you want to have a frequency around you that protects you, come up with a color that you find is strong and powerful and confident, sets a really strong intention that says, I understand my divine light. I understand that I am protected by God. I am protected by my team. I am stating my will and my desire, and I'm confident in my ability to be able to stand in my own power. Whatever color that screams to you, use that color in your aura and in your energy shield, not white light. White light's great for mediums that go into the higher frequency that connect to spirits in the light, because like energy attracts like energy. So it's fine for them to do it. But when you're in the paranormal or you're doing rescue mediumship, it's not exactly the best form.
No, and thank you for sharing that, because I know a lot of people out there, sometimes will sit there and go, I've done all the right work, I've done all the right prayers, yet this is still happening to me. What am I doing wrong? And so this maybe is, they'll hear this and go, well, let me try this, because maybe it is me and maybe I am doing the sending up the wrong signal, so to speak. And I mean, in reality, when we think about it, there is no actual wrong signal. It just means what your intention versus what's happening aren't in alignment.
Always
And
pay
so,
attention to what you're attracting, because that tells you a bit about your energy. And you mentioned something about this doesn't work for me, or people saying it doesn't work for me. And what I always tell my students is, don't look at what's going on the outside. Look at what's going on the inside, because it's your internal core frequency that's attracting all these things coming to you, like a beacon. So it isn't necessarily the aura, it's the core of your soul. And the core is more of who you are, what you believe in, how you feel about yourself, how you feel about others, any trauma you held, any crisis you've gone through, any hardships you still hold. All of them are like a weighted blanket or just weights inside your core frequency. And you're working so hard to get that outer layer to look bright and shiny and say everything's just fine. But spirits are able to penetrate into your etheric body and see exactly who you are beyond the veil, beyond that outer resonance of your aura. So I tell all my students and people on these shows, pay attention to what frequency you hold inside. And if you feel that you're still attracting things that are attacking you or hard to handle, look at yourself and say, do I still have trauma? Did I fix all my wounding? Is there anything I'm holding on to? Am I resentful of anything? Am I jealous? All these things that can lower your internal core frequency. If you're not in a state, and it's really hard for most people to be in a state of bliss or happiness or joy. We live in a very hard world, but the majority of people really should be at peace with themselves. And if they are, then they're going to attract more peace to them. So I say go internal. Don't worry about what's going on the outside, because the outside's just should be a reflection of what's going on the inside.
I agree. And one thing that I'm curious, how you're going to respond to is the situations like, say, you mentioned like the reptilian attachment.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody removes it, they do, and it comes back. And they say, oh, and they do, like you said, they get a force, like you call the police force, and they come and take it, but yet it comes back.
Mm-hmm.
What, or is it because they didn't believe that it worked, that it's coming back, or is it because they keep talking about it, they're inviting it back and not realizing they're inviting it back?
I would look at several factors, actually, more than just that. Because I would look at what's the magnetic force of these reptilians coming back to the individual. It may actually be that the individual has a contract or an agreement with these reptilians and they're not consciously aware of it. They may actually have an agreement to actually have attraction of these reptilians to learn more about them, to clear them from the planet themselves. They may have a reptilian past life, therefore they're attracting reptilians naturally through their karmic body, which are past life memories. They may actually be a star seed that's working with the reptilians to gather information. It isn't necessarily about belief system. There could be many factors that's actually creating a beacon, that energy to attract to you. I was attracting earthbound spirits for years, and I had so many mediums tell me that I was bad. because they say like energy attracts like energy. And all I was getting was all of these really negative spirits around me, and they were bloody and mean, and they had, white faces with big black eyes, and they were like demonic, and all these mediums like, there's something wrong with you. You need to really cleanse yourself, or you need to clear your karma, or find out what if you have a curse on you. And I would go to my guides, and they're like, you're attracting what you're supposed to help. Don't think you're a bad person. You're just attracting wounded spirits because you're a healer. So just because you're attracting something that's bad doesn't mean you are bad, doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. Just it might be trying to tell you something. Look into your contracts, contact your guides, find out the deeper meaning of what you're attracting. It may mean something bigger than you know.
That's very true, and that's something I don't think I've ever really given thought to. And I'm wondering also, as you're going through like all these different places or dealing with people, when they think that they're talking with like a spirit, say, oh, a spirit of a lady that used to live in the house,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't know they're talking to that lady. Do you ever find that sometimes they're actually talking to a star seed or, something from another world and they're just misidentifying it because they just don't know?
Limited awareness, misidentification happens all the time because you're concentrating on what you're seeing and you're basing it off of your experience. If your consciousness isn't actually aware of something, you can't actually see it. There's nothing that can do to help expand that awareness other than experience. And yes, so many people do contact things that come in, but they all have very different frequencies, different intentions, different ways of projecting themselves into our third dimension. So star seeds are actually very common to come in through light, through crystals, through sound frequency, through guided meditations or high frequency transcendental meditation. It's very rare to see a star seed in astral form to be in like a haunted location. It's too dense for their vibration. They're much higher than we are. But I wouldn't say that you wouldn't see an ET, you wouldn't see a reptilian, you wouldn't see an interdimensional being that looks like some type of crustacean creature or bug, because they are lower form creatures in different dimensions. They kind of come through the cracks in these haunted locations because portals have already been opened. There's a lot of dense energy. There's a lot of manifested negative energy swirling around, and everything from every dimension's coming to feed off of it. So unless you're like a really strong medium or understand a lot of protection, you really should avoid those places.
And, that's great wisdom there. And I'm also wondering, though, too, as we're talking about, we're going to a location and we're assuming it's haunted
Right.
because someone is, something or someone is there responding to things. And I wonder, if there is ever you come across like an star being, like star race, person who's like, oh, I just knew you were going to be here, wanted to talk with you. But everybody that comes to talk thinks, oh, this is a bad spirit and gets misidentified, and starts talking about, oh, this is harmful, this is bad.
Not
Do they start
necessarily.
to take that on, or do they just, what do you feel like happens there?
These star beings know how to find us better than we know how to find them. We all carry our own internal frequency that then sends up a signal of our mission, our job, our soul group, everything that we've done. And these star beings are above and beyond our consciousness. They know how to morph in and out of dimensions, through walls, through buildings, through water, through air. So they'll most likely come and find the people that they want to communicate with. You don't see a lot of star beings in haunted locations. But speaking of haunted locations, only about a third of them are actually haunted with an intelligent, entity there. When I say entity, I don't mean demonic. It could be a ghost, it could be a spirit in the light. It is an intelligent entity that's there. Believe it or not, like 3/4 of the cases are all residual hauntings, which are just energy imprints that have been left behind. I mean, think about it all around the world, how much history there is, and the layers upon layers of energetic imprints that are there. Of course, we're going to feel things. We're going to sense things that are very dark and mysterious. We're immediately thinking that it's haunted when, in fact, it's probably not. And the way you can tell is if you're in a place and you feel emotion, or you feel heavy, it seems really dark, but you're not getting a lot of interaction. So just things moving or something trying to communicate with you. The majority of it's going to be just residual haunting. If you actually have something that's moving things around or trying to actually actively communicate with you, most likely it's some form of entity trying to get your attention.
And I understand that. And one thing that I thought about and was informed about that it's like find interesting is, we think of something as being a residual energy because they're doing the same pattern over and over.
It can, not always.
And when I was challenged to think about it, and it actually makes sense, is what if the veil at that location is so thin that you're actually seeing a dimension that's like maybe an eighth of an inch off of us?
Mm.
And so what you're seeing and you're thinking is someone who was a long time ago going through the motions of what they're doing, but we're actually seeing another dimension where they're going about their day and they're looking at us and going, hey, look, there's these residual people that just keep staring at us.
Mhm.
What are they doing? So, do you ever feel like that happens and we just don't realize
It
that we're
usually
looking at?
happens, it does usually in areas of ley lines or portals that change the vibrational frequency where the dimensions can overlap each other. And these spirits aren't there all the time. They kind of morph in and out of you. You morph in and out of you, of their world, and they do the same with you. So you're getting two dimensions that are crossing the paths of each other, which actually happens a lot, not just in these spaces, but everywhere. And so these are what mediums do. We go in and through these different dimensions to see these spirits. If other people are seeing them, then the dimensions are doing them themselves. So it's actually a lot of fun to see that.
And I'm wondering, when you're at a location and say the veil was very thin and something crossed a dimensional barrier and is in our space and they're, trying to get home, how is, would you be like, as the rescue medium go, oh, hey, you don't actually belong here. You belong over here. Let
Mm-hmm.
us open this portal or
Mm-hmm.
veil, however you want to describe it, and send you back. How does one figure that out? Like, how do you tell one dimension from another being here?
Well, we don't have to, because the amount of entities that are out there, and there's thousands, there's no way we can know all of them. So what I teach is to open a universal portal, an interdimensional portal, or a spirit portal. We have many different portals. We have the underworld portal. And what we do is we have gatekeepers at these portals, or shepherds. So when we do direct the attention of these entities to these portals, they'll literally be walked through. And so think of like Grand Central Station. and they're walking into like this beautiful space, and then they're going to the dimension that they need to go into. It's all orchestrated by the other side, not by us, because we don't technically have the authority to say whether something should or shouldn't be here based on a limited form of awareness. These entities have been on our planet probably longer than we have. So we don't have the authority to say you got to go. But we do have the authority to have them leave our space. If it's our home, we don't feel safe, then we're like, you need to leave our home. If not, then I'm going to bring in a shepherd or a gatekeeper that's going to escort you to your dimension, and then you can go wherever you need to go. But when it comes to like the elemental portals, we're not allowed to touch those. We're not, I've had so many elementals come to me and like, you guys think you know what you're doing. I'm like, nope, I don't. It's all on you. You're the authority. I leave it up to them. You have to have a lot of respect for the astral plane because they see things that we can't. Our egos get involved and say, you're not supposed to be here and I'm going to take you out and you need to go here. And the other side looks down and is like, they're about 1 billion years old and you've only been on this planet for, say, 50 years. I think they have precedence over you. So always ask your team, go to the authority of that interdimensional being. Say, hey, are they really supposed to be here? If they are, can they please go somewhere else? There's a lot of facilitating that needs to happen with a large group of people. You just can't shove them in a door and think you're doing the right thing. That's actually the wrong thing to do. Actually, I wouldn't.
And that brings up an interesting point. Like, you watch some of these paranormal TV shows, and the paranormal team is like, oh, we helped this spirit to cross over, and now, this place is at peace. And I've often wondered, one, did they really do what they think they did? And two is, when do you determine the spirit's rights over the individuals? Like, and what I mean by that is, say you find a haunted house that the people that own it are like, we're making our livelihood by having these people come and visit and investigating here. And yet the spirits are like, hey, we want to go home.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, at what point do we say, sorry, people, your livelihood needs to change because spirits want to go?
Right from the get-go. Right from the get-go. Yeah, I'm a huge advocate of that because I know that the people that own these locations don't have any ill intent. I know that, or the majority of them don't. And they're trying to, have financial gain off the opportunity of ghosts being in their location. But, and there's a big but there, if the spirit does not want to be there, or if they're not even aware that they're dead or they don't know how to get home, they should be given all opportunities to be able to talk to a medium that it can explain the situation and give them a choice. It should always be a choice. Rescue mediums can't force a spirit into the light if they don't want to go. So these homeowners or business owners should never force them to stay here either. It goes against their will. And I always said a long time ago, it's a form of slavery because you're keeping a soul against his will for financial gain. That's not right. And it shouldn't ever be allowed. But I've actually been told many times throughout my career that I wasn't allowed to come on investigations because they didn't want anyone to help the spirit cross over. They just wanted to investigate and hype up the location of the business so they'd get more business coming in because it was a haunted location, and they wanted that validation from a medium. And I refused. I said, I'm not coming in just to hype up a location where a spirit feels stuck and against their will to stay. That goes against my humanity. I mean, that's not right. And I don't understand how people could actually do that. And my guides told me a long time ago, they've these people have failed to remember that these are human souls. They think of them as objects or things that they can possess and use. And that's not it at all. These are people and they should be helped.
Right. And it just I'm thinking back and I'm just like smiling over your interaction with the elementals because I'm like, yeah, in my experience, I'm like, I'll talk to many different genres of beings and everything, but elementals, yeah, those are ones that I'm like, hey, you guys do you, I'll do me over here. I'm not gonna mess with you. You don't mess with me. We're gonna be copacetic. We're good. And if I have stepped on your turf, I apologize. I'm backing off. But yeah, it's like it's the one, and I appreciate how you're the same way. It's like the one force that's out there that's like,
You don't
nope.
mess with you don't mess with them. I learned that the hard way actually. I had one of my attachments was an elemental and a strong one. And it was years ago when I was being trained by many metaphysical people out there that when you clear your energy, just push it down into the earth to have it transmuted from the earth. And so I started training that to a lot of my students years ago. And finally, and one day I woke up and I had this really nasty attachment out of the middle of nowhere, and it would crawl through my body. It'd crawl across my face. It would smile at me in the mirror. It would squeeze my throat and choke me. It would give me headaches. It would keep me from sleeping. And everything that I could think of to do to clear this attachment from me didn't work. And so I actually went to my mentor who had been doing the work for 30 years. She couldn't get it out of me either. It would just laugh, this demonic laugh at her. And she eventually said, I think you have an elemental. And I'm like, what? Why would I have an elemental that acts very demonic inside of me? She's like, I think you need to go and talk to it. Like, and I was so upset at this point. And I went to my guides as I always do. And they said the same thing. You need to talk to it. It's there to teach you something. And so I sat down kindly and said, okay, I understand. You're here for a reason. You could be an elemental. Tell me what you need to know. And it said, not yet, and started choking me. 3 weeks went by of torment from this attachment in my gut, like literally squeezing my intestines. Like I was broken after 3 weeks. So finally, I was just sitting there and I was crying. I'm like, I don't know how to get you out of me. I don't know what you want, but this has to end. And I said, I'm not ready to tell you. And I said, okay, so what's going on? He's like, you need to stop putting your energetic trash in my realm. And I'm like, what? And then he started showing people dumping their energetic baggage into the earth. He's like, you've polluted our earth. You've damaged our earth. You're walking around with energetic trash all over you. And then you want to give it to us? We've had enough of you humans. And he's like, you are not going to train anyone to do this work going forward. And I'm like, well, where should we send it? They said, send it up, send it to the stars, but don't send it here. And I'm like, okay, I get it. I'm like, well, why were you so mean? He's like, if I wasn't mean and if I didn't make enough of an impact, you wouldn't have listened. And in an instant, he left my body. And I guarantee you to this day, I will never, ever teach anyone to put their energetic baggage into the earth ever since then. It was a horrible experience.
Yeah, fun fact is, I always say, sending this back to source. I'm like, let source deal with it. They created it, let them handle it. But yeah, and I'm just kind of laughing when it's like, yeah, how many people have pushed what they don't want
Oh, so
off
many.
into the planet and think, oh yeah, the planet can take care of it. The planet's,
It,
this or that, and it's like this is someone's domain. It's like
it is.
I'm just laughing at the fact that it said put it into the air because I'm like, oh my god, I could just imagine an air elemental coming around, and
I
it's all
open up a universal portal and I send it to universe or I send it to source because I don't know. Again, I don't have the authority to decide what needs it the most. So I send it to source or universe, and I always state I ask that this is sent to the universe to be used for the highest and best of the universe. The universe knows better than I. And so you send it, it could be used to make a star, a nebula, it could be used anywhere, but don't send it to the other. It's like taking your trash out and throwing it in your neighbor's house. Some of us want to do that, but most of us shouldn't do that.
should be not ever do that, but
I didn't
yeah,
give you permission to do that at all. And the earth definitely is your neighbor. It's your home. Don't put your energetic trash there. There's so many mediums and healers out there that are still teaching that. But I guarantee they're probably going to have an elemental knocking on their door, kind of telling them not to do that either.
one could hope in a nice way. And in full transparency, as we were talking earlier, you were like how you love questions from the chat room.
I do.
We actually have one.
Yay!
Kids Like Hell, she is asking, are elementals the ones you can offer food to?
Yes, they're actually elementals, but there's also creatures from the magical kingdom as well. You can offer food, which they love, but they, believe it or not, they love sage and cinnamon and flowers and shells and crystals and rocks. They love earth gifts. Food is fine as long as it's clean, like fruit. They don't give them a slab of beef or anything like that. If you're going to give them anything, it's an offering. It's a gesture of a gift of gratitude to them. And I always ask first, like, what would you like? And I sit there, I quiet my mind, and whatever comes to my mind. But I've over the years I've seen the same thing: sage, cinnamon, sometimes Palo Santo, herbs, all types of herbs, flower petals, shells, and shiny rocks or crystals. They love them all. I love them all. A little bit tobacco sometimes for some if we're doing something for the Native Americans as well. And then you can burn some sage or some incense there because they love the smell of that. So it can be a little bit of everything.
That's really cool, and I'm glad you brought up the tobacco with the native traditions or indigenous, whatever term you want to use. Um, because I've gone to ceremonies where we offer tobacco, and it's like, you rub it through your fingers, so it's like you're dropping it through the air, so it's like you're offering it to the air.
Mm.
It hits the ground, you're offering it to the ground. It probably will eventually, rain will hit it or something, it'll get brushed into the water, so the water elements are going to get it. And it's like, or, sometimes they'll throw it into a fire and
Mm.
release it that way. And it's like paying homage to the elements without saying you're paying homage to the elements. And so I wonder, when we go to places, a lot of people say you should leave something behind for the spirits. And I wonder, yeah, I wonder, sometimes, is that really a good thing that they leave like a toy for a child spirit, or they leave something behind for the spirits? Because does that in turn prevent them from wanting to go back where they were and make them want to stick around, that people are giving them stuff?
Not necessarily. It's a kind gesture, but honestly, they're leaving a gift behind is an indication that you want to help them, you just don't know how. So instead of leaving a toy, call in a rescue medium. to come help that child instead. And if you do want to leave a toy, it's not going to keep that child there because, like, oh no, I got to hold on to this toy. That's fine. It's a kind gesture. It really is. It's not necessary to do that. And I tell a lot of people, if you can't bring a rescue medium to the spirit, tell the spirit the name of a rescue medium, and they can link into our energy and find us through any corner of the world. And then they can find us and we can help send them home. So we don't always have to be present at the location.
That's a great gift. And I mean, yeah, and I know people, like, I know a few people who like to leave like toys for the children's spirits because they feel like because they're a child spirit, they missed out on life, or, it's tragic that they are a spirit of a child. And so they're trying to bring love and light into the child's world by this offering. But yeah, I wonder sometimes, is that how it's received, or do they look at it and being like, why are you leaving this here? Because there's also, we were taught, and I'm sure, this comes from generational training of leave a place better than you found it. So it's like, I wonder, sometimes do the spirits look and go, you forgot your thing, whatever that is over there?
Not necessarily, because they can sense your intention behind the gift giving. They can. But, you have to think, is the spirit even aware that you're there? Can the gift even be seen by that spirit? Have you made contact with them? Are they aware that they're dead? There's many factors to take in. It's like you can sense the energy of a child spirit. You could hear laughter, but again, it could be a residual imprint. It may not actually be a soul that's there. So it's best to make contact, try to see if you can and get them to cross over first. And even if you don't know how, prayers are wonderful. You can ask for them to look for a family member. And one really, really easy way to do it for anyone who doesn't even know anything about rescue mediumship is to make contact with the spirit and ask them to remember someone that they love and they miss. Because the moment they have the memory of that individual, it energetically brings them into that location. And you can be the mediator between the two, and they can find each other through love. And then they can guide them into the light. So it works quite often just to say, can you think of someone that you miss, someone that you love? And when they think of that individual, it brings them in and can be the shepherd to guide them home. So, and I wish people would do that more. And that's a better gift to leave than a toy.
Very true. And one thing, too, that I'm curious your viewpoint of is we label a lot of things and we don't necessarily know what we're labeling. Like, I like to use the classic example of the sky is blue. We just say it's blue because we've always been told that's what blue is.
Right.
We don't actually know what color the sky is. But when I look at the labels of like channel versus medium versus psychic,
Right.
people take offense if you use the wrong label. And in my mind, I kind of struggle sometimes to kind of tell the difference because they all seem like they have the same base.
Right.
And so I'm curious, because you list yourself as being a channel, a psychic, and a medium, what your interpretation of that is.
Well, it's the technique in which you communicate with spirit that tells the difference. And it's just like, yes, we're all mediums, but think of it like this. You have doctors, but then you have specialty doctors. You're going to go to a podiatrist. and then you're going to go to an endocrinologist, and then you're going to go see, oncologist. They all have different specialties, yet they have the same base of being a doctor. Many mediums have the base of being a spirit communicator and a vibrational match to the astral plane, but we all have our different specialties. And some of those specialties can be derived from the technique in which we communicate with the spirit world. The difference between a medium and a channel is a medium receives from the spirit world. We meet them halfway and form communication, transfer telepathic information mentally. Channeling is where the spirit actually comes into our body and actually communicates either through divine channel, inspirational thought, or they actually speak directly through us through a voice phenomenon of channeling. You have physical mediumship, where mediums can then, have their ectoplasm create a bond to the spirit world, where physical manifestations can happen as well. So there's specialty upon specialty upon specialty. No one should be offended or wronged by giving the wrong specialty name. If people really want to hold on to that title because they earned it through their education and training and years of experience, then great. But don't take offense to it, because the majority of people really just don't understand. And that's fine. A medium is a medium is a medium. We're all mediums. We just tell the technique in which we become a medium and how we receive from the spirit world. That's all.
And I like how you put it that way, because I was talking with someone who was like, yes, I'm a medium, but I will never channel. And I'm like, what do you mean? And I'm like, channeling is mediumship. And they go, oh no, I will never let anything come in and take over my body. And I'm like, what in the world are you talking about? Because, like, I used to channel, and there's agreement of, yes, you're going to come in, you're going to speak, and then you're going to leave. You're not inviting something in that's going to have you go driving down the street and going to, get a burger because they want a burger and you don't eat burgers. And, you're not giving your body to someone. And so that's where I feel like so many people don't understand the process and are afraid of it and turn their backs to it. And is that
Well,
something you find as well?
some, but no one should do any form of channeling without proper instruction, guidance, and a relationship, an agreement between themselves and the spirit who's going to channel through them. They need to build a relationship of trust between the two. I agree, you should not just let anything or anyone into your body. You should have heavy discernment with that. That always starts with intention, your belief. And if you do have a contract or agreement through your soul mission to be a channel, then you already have a team assigned to you. Go to your team, talk to them about the right procedure and structure in becoming a channel, find out who is going to channel through you, and then be able to form that wonderful bond and relationship of trust so you never have to worry.
Very true. And I'm looking in the chat room, and Lucier Ancient Mystery School, Jim Lucier says there's trance channeling where a person goes into a trance.
Yes.
And that's true. There is that. And he says people confuse general channeling and trance channeling.
Yes, they do. Trance channel is a lot more rare. And that takes years of training and experience and a lot of trust. But the majority of people actually do something even more than general channeling, and that's inspirational channeling. That's where you're in the right place at the right time saying the right thing, and you don't even know why you're saying it. You don't know why you went to a location, you don't know why you're speaking to someone, and you don't know why you're saying the words that are coming out of your mouth. You are divinely inspired, and through a channel, of spirit giving somebody information that they've been needing for a while. And we do that every day, almost every day, because the spirit world's always looking for opportunity. They're looking for people that are open, have the right vibrational match, and are welcoming a chance to be able to help others. So we do inspirational channeling a lot more than anything else.
And when I was channeling, I could always feel like it's like I could hear my voice is different, and I knew, I wasn't present, but I'm not far away either. So it's like if something happens, I can take over and be like, yeah, so I don't like stumble to the floor and look like a drunk fool because they don't know how to walk in the body. But I also, though, had an experience where somebody that I feel like was doubting if I was really channeling or not, had the experience of looking at my eyes and said, your eyes were not your own. It was like they had changed to somebody else's eyes. And it's like, I just thought that was really cool. And then I was like, I sat there and I wondered, because they altered my eyes, does that have an effect on my eyesight because they morphed my eyes to their eyes? So, like, and I wonder, and where I'm going with this is I wonder if, like, say a medium needs glasses because they can't see really well, and a spirit comes through and they're like, I can't see with these glasses, so they make you take them off.
Mm-hmm.
Can they improve the vision of the person?
They've been able to improve the vision. They've been able to change the voice entirely. We can see the actual spirit face morphed on top of the medium's face. We can see extra hands, extra arms. A medium can walk if they're not mobile. And one thing that we keep forgetting, our spirit world's always trying to remind us, is our physical body is limited to our own belief system and our expectation. If we believe our eyesight is going, we've already created an expectation that it's going to deteriorate, an acceptance of it, so the body deteriorates even more. Once spirit steps in without limitation, without the doubt, without the blocks, without the wounds or the fears, the physical body then morphs into a higher state without any ailments because the spirit doesn't believe in them. Your physical body is a manifestation of your belief.
Right. And I just noticed we're actually almost 5 minutes over the hour. Are you okay to go longer, or do you have somewhere to be?
We can go a few minutes if people have a few more questions.
Okay. I just try to be respectful of the time. And so, as we're talking about this, one thing that's curious to me, though, is like we're saying, they can help the eyesight and make it so they can see. But why is it that it doesn't hold? Is it because the people don't accept the healing of the eyesight, and so they maintain their
They
glasses?
go back to their belief system and their expectation. Even happens when people are channeling, like with me. I had a fever of 102. I had this horrible flu, yet I had a gallery that night. And I had like a room full of 50 people. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to do this. And my guides are like, don't worry, step on stage and everything will be fine. I stepped on the stage. I went directly into spirit and channeling. My fever immediately went away. My cough went away. I felt like I was floating on air. I felt perfect, like not a single symptom at all. And I went 2 hours of straight mediumship. It was a great night. I left the stage 10 minutes later, my fever spiked to 102.5. I started coughing again, and I was shivering in bed for the next 6 hours. When spirit is with you, they take the ailments away. They're free. I believe it has to do with frequency. Because when you're channeling such a high vibrational frequency, chronic illnesses and things that are created in denseness no longer can be held in the same space. So when the high frequency comes in, it pushes everything aside. All the ailments and sensations are gone. And when spirit leaves, we become dense again, back in our original vibrational match. And the denseness of our chronic illnesses come back.
I also wonder, before I get to another question in the chat room, is say like an energy comes in that you're channeling and they have an ability of like telepathy and they can heal really well and maybe like retain information faster. Can you, when you return back, go, hey, I like these attributes, can I keep these attributes and assimilate them into me, or do we have to go into like some kind of contract and practice and going, okay, I got to learn and study, I can't have just access to this?
Well, when they bring it to you, sometimes it's an invitation. They wouldn't bring it to you if you didn't have the ability to obtain that. So sometimes it's just creating awareness that it's even possible. The spirit world never wants to keep anything from you, never tell you that you can't do anything. Some things may be beyond the original contract, so they'll say, yes, you can do it, but your original contract will be voided because this is going to overwrite it now. So you have to weigh that option and go, do I like my original contract? Can this be added to it, or do I have to switch altogether? Once you make that determination, you say, yes, I really want to take that on. Your guides will do everything necessary to attune you to the right frequency to hold that for a long period of time. That can be with training.
Very cool. I like that. And it's kind of goes even into the adage of we were brought here to do everything, and everything that's been brought to us is because we know we can overcome it. And so it's like kind of along those lines. And the question actually is coming from Jim Edward Lucier again, and he's asking, can you talk about your awakening in 2000? And he came in late, so he's like, you probably already did, which no, we didn't actually. And so thank you for that question.
I wish it was an awakening, but rather a sledgehammer to my head. It was, I had been hearing voices and talking to dead people my whole life. I didn't see them, I heard them. So I had clairaudience my whole life. And then I did a lot of astral travel as a child, and I had so many past life dreams. So I had a very interesting life as a child, but I was not aware that I was a medium or a psychic at all. But I was having a lot of experiences where I knew that I'd come for a mission. I knew that because the voices in my head, voices, were telling me that I came here to do something very important, and that I was different, and that one day everything would make sense for me, because I'd question it. And my mom was a medium. I thought she was crazy growing up. I didn't really think that she could actually talk to dead people. And I did not know the voices in my head were actually dead people. I just thought it was my inner dialogue, even though it was telling me things that I didn't know about myself and my future. And so I think around the teenage years is when I started having experiences with ghosts. And my first experience with a ghost, I was home alone, 15 years old, and in the shower, of course, with that experience. And I remember I was taking a shower, and next thing I know, I felt someone walk into the bathroom. Now, I was in my parents' bathroom, not ours. We weren't allowed to use our parents' bathroom because it was a nicer one. And I thought, oh no, I'm caught. my parents are home. I'm going to get in trouble, because you try to use the stuff you're not supposed to use while your parents are gone, a rebel using their bathroom. And next thing I know, I look out of the shower and there's nobody there. And so I'm like, oh, maybe I was imagining this. And next thing I know, it walks closer to the shower curtain. And I'm looking and I'm like, something's going on here. There's somebody that keeps coming in and out of the bathroom. And I felt them standing there. So I look and there's no one there. And so I'm like, that's it. They left. There's somebody in the house. I turned off the water. I had soap in my hair. I grab a towel and I start walking through the house. I'm like, somebody's in this house. And I'm freaking out because I'm home alone. And I'm looking and all the doors are locked. There's nobody in the house. I'm like, I'm starting to lose it. I am. This is crazy. And so I go back. I'm like, okay, let me just wash this stuff out of my hair. And then the energy came back into the bathroom, stronger than before, and stood right next to the shower curtain, almost breathing on me. And I didn't know what to do. The first thing that came to my mind was, don't be afraid. Whatever you do, just don't be afraid. And I don't know why I thought that, but I did. And of course, me being me, I started singing in the shower. I started being joyful in the shower. And I'm like, I'm not afraid. And doing all kinds of stuff. Next thing I know, this bright light comes into the bathroom. And I heard, Amy, I'm a relative. I'm here to protect you. And took that heavy energy next to the shower curtain and pushed it out of the bathroom. And I'm left there going, what just happened? And then, that was my introduction to the fact that I had spirits around me. But it was about 5 years later where I actually had an astrology reading, which changed my whole life. And in that astrology reading, she told me I was a psychic and a medium, and I was going to devote my life to doing this work. Now, I thought she was crazy, because I was ex-military, naval intelligence. I had just gotten out. I had a baby, and I was like grounded, logical as you can be. And I'm sitting here going, you gotta be kidding me. I am not a medium. I'm not a psychic. I have no idea what you're talking about. But sure enough, the voices came back. The energy came back the moment I had that awareness, and I was swarmed ever since of ghosts. So I wouldn't call it an awakening. I would call it something entirely different.
An awareness.
An awareness, because once you are aware, there's something like the door gets swung open and there's a line, like a long line of spirits, especially if you're doing rescue work. There's a long line of spirits waiting to get your attention and talk to you. So they've been waiting years to communicate with me. So I obviously had a large buffer around me from my guides, because the moment I said, okay, I'm a medium, it's like my guides took a step back and just like a tidal wave came over me. So I had to learn a lot from there. It was an interesting journey for sure.
Well, it's kind of funny too if you think about it, going with the long line and going, all right, who's going to be the first? Who's going to be the one to tell her we're here? And it's like, you almost got to feel bad for that energy that was like walked in to say, hey, we're here to talk to you, and got shoved out. And it's like, yeah, it's funny for us, laughing now, thinking about, all the possibilities. But yeah, I totally can see, a dark, heavy energy. Not exactly the best thing to be around a bathroom in.
No, and when I had this swarm of all the spirits, I kept pushing it away because they felt dark and heavy and negative. And I'm like, no. So I'm going to go take a mediumship class. And so we're in a circle and everyone's like, okay, we're going to talk to our loved ones in heaven and everything is great. I can't wait. There's like 5 of us. So they take us into a guided meditation. This is going to be my first chance to be able to be consciously aware and set intention to talk to the spirit world, because everyone said I'm a medium. So let's try it out, right? Wrong. So I get into the meditation. Next thing I know, in the darkness, this woman steps right in front of my face, in spirit, covered in blood. Her hair is all mangled. And she looks down and she's holding a bloody knife. And then she looks down next to her. She's got 2 kids covered in blood. And she looks right at me with piercing eyes. She's like, I just killed myself and my 2 kids. What are you going to do about it? And I'm looking at her like, I have no idea. I have no idea what I'm going to do about it. And I couldn't think of anything to do. So I just started counseling her. I'm like, well, maybe it's not that bad. You know, you didn't really know what you were doing. And, you know, I'm sure you're very remorseful now. I'm just like, somebody give me something to say. I had no idea what to do. And so finally I heard something from a higher source of spirit say, don't worry, we've got this. And they pulled her away. And then they took us out of the guided meditation. I was like, oh, I saw my dad. I saw my grandpa. And they came to me and like, pass. I'm not saying anything. I don't want to tell people what just happened with me. And that was my first experience communicating with the spirit world. And that's, you know, of course, as being a rescue medium, it had to be, right?
Oh, yeah. And I'm looking at the time, and there are more questions and comments coming in, but I feel like I want to be respectful of the time, and we can have you back on because, yeah. I mean, we're having so much fun. It's like
I've got stories.
and everything, and so stay tuned, everyone, because we'll definitely, you know, see if our schedules can cross again to where we can work on having an episode again. And I want to take a couple of moments though and say, from the son of a Navy vet, thank you for your service and thank you for the sacrifices that you made in that line of work. But then I also want to go a step further, and from the heart of my show to your heart, thank you for what you are doing for humanity and for the spirit world.
I'm honored to do the work. As reluctant as I was in the beginning to do this, it has been the greatest job that I could have ever received, ever. And I'm so grateful to do it. So thank you.
Yeah, and thank you to the chat room and everyone for tuning in, because I know this is not our usual night. So thank you all for joining us. And there are comments in the chat room of thank yous to you as well.
My pleasure.
And I just want to say to everyone, you know, there is hope, you know, as bad as things look like when we start, there's always hope that, you know, it's not what we think it is, so it can become better. And I like how your story, you know, kind of mirrors that, where you had a rough start and didn't, it was like, no, and now it's like turned into this really great gift.
Right.
And so, yeah, you know, don't give up on, you know, what's going on, because the way you think it's going to happen may not be the way it's going to unfold, but there is light and beauty in the unfolding. So I don't know where I'm going with this, where this is coming from, so I think I'm going to leave it at that, because I don't want to like construe the message.
I always say transform your fear into your power.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. Transform your fear into your power. Because the spirit world has always told me your greatest weakness will eventually be your greatest gift to the world. So,
Well, you heard it there. And so before I play the outro and end this episode, where can people find you and get a hold of your book?
they can get a hold of me through my website, amymajor.com, or on Facebook. I have an account or a few accounts on Facebook. All my books are available on Amazon. I have a downloadable book, How to Clear Spirit Attachments from You. They can find that on my website or Amazon. A lot of people go to the book Toward the Light for a general overview of what rescue mediumship is, and a lot of people love that book. Light the Way is a field guide for those who want to start dabbling in rescue mediumship and learn more about this modality and how they can do it themselves. And then you can go, if you want to go even further than that, to my school, which is spiritrescuecenter.com, where you actually can train to become certified as a rescue medium and do some real great power out there in the world and really help a lot of earthbound spirits. So just reach out. I'm happy to direct you if you're really interested.
Very cool. And thank you for coming on. And if you guys enjoyed this episode, please click the like and subscribe if you haven't already, so you can follow along with all these episodes, because you never know when we'll have Amy back on. And so you might want to follow along. If you had fun this time, just wait till we have another episode.
That's right. Might get weirder.
I love it, because often I'll say, is that even possible? But I've learned the answer to that is a hard yes.
Yes. Absolutely. It can only get weirder from here. So,
And with that, we're going to say goodnight, everyone.
good night.